Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with Week 16. Last week it was not a good week. I went 9-7, which my total season record is 143 and 80, and we're now they have 3 weeks left in the season and only two playoff spots clinched. But this week, those spots are about to be filled and filled fast. So let's start off with Thursday Night Football, and ironically, this is my game of the week for the week. We got the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Seattle Seahawks. These two teams have already played each other, with the Rams getting a win, barely. And last week for the Rams, they put up a good showing against the Detroit Lions, although they did lose Devontae Adams due to a hamstring injury. He's likely out for the rest of the regular season. But which means that the Rams, it is imperative that they get that number one seed so they can get rest, get Devontae Adams back and ready for their playoff run. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Seahawks, a less than impressive victory over the Colts. Sure, they got the win. They didn't even score a touchdown in that game. They used their defense to win that one. And Seattle will be wearing their rivalry uniforms against the Rams. I couldn't find a proper logo for this, so I'm just using their old throwback from 2002. And I think this game can go in any direction, but we have a playoff clinching scenario for Seattle. If they win, they're in. Or if Detroit somehow slips up against Pittsburgh, they're in. And that's gonna probably be the scenario for a bunch of teams heading into this weekend. But in this matchup, this is a tough one. This is a tough one to pick. Part of me do want to take Seattle to win, even if the Rams are hobbled. But for me, I think Rams. I'm giving them the slight edge to get the season sweep because all the Rams have to do get past this game. The last two games are home free. Cause their last two games is Atlanta and Arizona, and I don't see the Rams slipping up against those two teams. So this is the Rams' last big test. I'm giving them the win here. And then we got the first of two games on Saturday, where we got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. Eagles getting a win over the Raiders. That was not hard to do. And the Commanders getting a win over the New York Giants, ending their losing streak. I mean, that's impressive. But we do have a playoff clinching scenario for Philadelphia. If they win, the NFC East is there, and that basically essentially eliminate the Dallas Cowboys. But if Dallas lose and Eagles somehow lose, the division is still theirs. So basically, the Eagles, all they got to do is get a win here, and they can ride the rest of the season scot free. And taking on a hobbled Washington Commanders team, I do think the Eagles will get the job done here. I mean, hopefully that Vegas game gives the Eagles some confidence heading into the playoff stretch. We'll have to just wait and see what happens. And then we have the rematch between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Green Bay suffered a loss to Denver in more ways than one. And in that game, they also lost Michael Parsons to a torn ACL. He will not participate in the playoff run and likely will be out for the next first 4 games of next season. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears got a win over the Cleveland Browns, and I feel like this is a must win for Chicago because their last 2 games, oof. They got the last 2 games on their schedule is the 49ers, and they have, I think, the Vikings last. And I know the Vikings that might no wait, it might be the Detroit Lions that got last. And those two teams, they are still some of the best. But there are scenarios for both teams. Because whoever wins this game, they need Detroit to lose to get a playoff spot. Because I read both of their scenarios and they're eerily similar, so I'm just gonna say it like that. And in this game, the Packers, yeah, they did run up against an elite Denver Broncos team. It's another one I kind of went back and forth on, but I'm gonna give the slightest of edges to Green Bay. I think If the offense could rebound from a pretty rough showing last week against that Bears team, I think they could get a win. But I will not be surprised if the Bears get the win and get their playoff spot. And then you got the Buffalo Bills taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Bills got their revenge win over the New England Patriots. Josh Allen went God mode, and that's pretty much all they need if they want to push forward in the postseason. In Cleveland, only 3 points scored against the Chicago Bears. I was kind of disappointed in their showing, even if Kevin Stefanski held that game back. But for the Bills, there is a playoff clinching scenario for them. They need to win. First, they need to win this game. Then they need to have either Indianapolis lose or Houston losing. And Houston, with the opponent they have, that's not happening. But in this game, I am still taking the Bills to win. I do think they're the better team, but keep your eyes out for Myles Garrett. I think he's going to break the record in this game. And then we have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Chargers completed the season sweep of the Kansas City Chiefs, eliminating them in postseason contention. Meanwhile, the Cowboys went back to their lethargic self, losing to the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday night. Now, if the Eagles win, this game's not going to have any meaning, at least for the Cowboys. But for the Chargers, they have a scenario that pretty much the entire AFC has. Win and have either Indianapolis or Houston losing. And the Chargers, they got a great defense. The problem is their offense is, ugh. I'm not going to call it bad, but they're pretty injured. I think injuries is what I'm going to say the least. And for some reason, the Cowboys are favored in this one. But in this game, I am going to take the Chargers to win. I think their offense could get back on track because Dallas defense is, oh boy, it's hot garbage. And then we have a playoff. Well, we don't have a playoff game, but you would think with the Kansas City Chiefs being in this position, you would think they'll have a playoff clinching scenario. But they got eliminated last week. Yes, no, there will be no Kansas City in the AFC playoffs. Go ahead and celebrate. But they got to take on the Tennessee Titans. You know the Chiefs lost to the Chargers, but they lost more. Patrick Mahomes torn his ACL. He's out for the rest of the season, and they said he had surgery already, which is kind of odd for him. So he's gonna try give it a go. He's gonna probably kick rehab's butt, give it a go, and see if he could play Week 1 in 2026. Meanwhile, for the Tennessee Titans, they went back to their losing ways against the 49ers, but I am going to give them some credit. They have been looking better as the weeks got on. It may not look significant on paper, but I have seen improvement from the Titans, so I'll give them that. And in this game, I think this could be a perfect chance for the Tennessee Titans to get a jump on the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs are going to have some pride. I'm going to go with the Chiefs to win this game. Even without Mahomes, I do think they're the better team. And then we have the Bengals and the Dolphins. Cincinnati got not only lost to the Ravens, but they got shut out at home. If that's a sign that Zach Taylor should be fired, that will be. And plus, Cincinnati has been, oh boy, they have not been in the headlines for good. First, they get shut out, but then their stadium with the snow, not covering up the snow because Mike Brown's a cheap skate. Yeah, Cincinnati, this thing's a mess there right now. They'll be taking on the Miami Dolphins, who are coming off a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Mike McDaniels, as of the making of this video, he is weighing the decision on whether he should bench Tua Tagovailoa in favor of somebody else, probably Mike White. But as of the making of this video, no decision has been made. I don't even know why I'm spending so much time on this game. Both teams are eliminated. So for this one, I am going to take the Bengals slightly. Hopefully their offense can get back on track. But this one does have some playoff implications for fantasy teams. So there's that. Maybe. And then we have a Tank Bowl. The Jets taking on the New Orleans Saints. New York Jets getting blown out by the Jacksonville Jaguars to the point where they had to fire Steve Wilkes. And the Saints somehow completing the season sweep of the Carolina Panthers. Who saw that coming? And yeah, let's be quick with this one. It's a tank bowl. I'm gonna give the Saints the win here because the Jets, there's no point of them winning going forward. With the draft picks they got, they should not try and win any more games this season. And speaking of teams that should not try and win games going forward, Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Giants. Vikings got a road Sunday night win over the Dallas Cowboys. Nine had a great game, but it's the Dallas defense. That is definitely not hard to do. And the Giants somehow lost to the Washington Commanders in a game that I actually picked them to win. And another game that I'm just going to go briefly because both teams are eliminated. There is no playoff hopes for them. I'm going to go with the Vikings to win. Hopefully, Nine carries his momentum for the last 2 weeks into this one, and he has a good chance of doing that. And then we got a big time matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Carolina Panthers. And both of these teams had opportunities to separate themselves in the woeful NFC South division, but they both decided to take loss to inferior opponents in the division, opponents that are already eliminated in playoff contentions, and opponents that have pretty much locked third and fourth place in their division. And so for this game, it's the first of 3 games. I think here's the scenario for this. Whoever wins their next 2 games, they're going to the playoffs. It is as simple as that. Because both of their, well, for Tampa, they got Carolina, Miami, Carolina. For Carolina, they got Tampa, Seattle, Tampa. And looking at this game, oh boy, that's another one I've gone back and forth. But I'm going to actually go with my heart here. I'm going with my Carolina Panthers to win this game. Because last week, the offense didn't really look that bad. Defense was playing 10 yards. Oh, corners were playing 10 yards away from the receiver, which why Tyler Shook got a lot of completions. And defense just did not look good, even if the score said otherwise. If Carolina wins this game, all they got to do is beat Seattle, which is a pretty tall task to do. But it can beat. But Carolina Panthers have shown they could beat anybody in any given Sunday. I think they could get it done against Tampa Bay, but they're gonna have to change up their defensive game plan if they want that to happen. And then we got a very interesting AFC matchup between the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Denver Broncos. Jaguars got a huge win over the New York Jets, and I think Jacksonville is one of the hotter teams heading to close this season. Meanwhile, for the Broncos, they became the first team in the AFC to clinch a playoff berth as they beat the Green Bay Packers. Jacksonville has a scenario this week. If all they got to do is win and have either Indianapolis or Houston lose to get a playoff berth. Again, it's the same scenario for several of these teams. And for this game, throughout this season, I have been a Denver Bronco doubter. And I do need to apologize to Broncos fans for doubting you guys. I think you're going to get the win here. I think defensively, this is going to be a good matchup. And who knows, we might see these two teams again in January. We're just going to have to wait and see about that. Then we have another tank bowl between the Atlanta Falcons and the Arizona Cardinals. Falcons getting a road upset win over Tampa Bay. And the Cardinals, they look lethargic against the Houston Texans. What more can I say? Cardinals are useless. I'm going with the Falcons to win. But let me just also mention Kyle Pitts. He had his career game against Tampa Bay. Then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Detroit Lions. A place where Aaron Rodgers have made Hail Marys. Now, Steelers coming off their second straight win, beating the Miami Dolphins, and they need one more win to repeat an old, tired narrative about this team. They'll be taking on the Detroit Lions, who they too are coming off. They're coming off a tough loss against the Rams. They did look good. While they did look promising, they just didn't have enough. And I think for Detroit, they have to win out. Winning out is their only option for them if they want to have a chance at the playoffs. And in this game, even though this game's being played in Detroit, I do think Pittsburgh has a shot to win. It all depends on which Jared Goff we get. If we get Jared Goff from last week and the week before, I think Detroit wins easily. But if we get Jared Goff, the losing Jared Goff, Pittsburgh could sneak one. And this is the type of game I think Pittsburgh can sneak and steal a victory. But I am going to still pick the Detroit Lions to win this game. I just trust their offense a little more. But I think this is going to be one of the fun matchups of the week. Then we got the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Texans. And with that Houston defense, it's going to be a very long day in the office for the Raiders. This might be their third shutout of the season for the Las Vegas Raiders. And that takes us directly into Sunday Night Football, where the New England Patriots will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Patriots are coming off a tough loss to the Buffalo Bills at home. They weren't able to clinch a playoff spot that week, nor the division. That's still in play. And they'll be taking on the Baltimore Ravens, where they got a big shutout win over the Cincinnati Bengals. Basically split, and that allowed them to split the series and keep whatever playoff hopes for the Ravens alive. And I think the Ravens are in a similar boat with the Detroit Lions. Winning out is their only option. Because if I think they lose to the New England Patriots, I think it's over for them. And who cares what happens week 18 when they play the Pittsburgh Steelers? I think it's over for them if they lose to the New England Patriots. And in this game, I don't know. This is one of those I really don't know. I went back and forth. Another game I went back and forth, back and forth. Part of me wanted me to take New England to win because, well, they're the better team. Part of me want me to take Baltimore because, well, if based on their potential. Oh, this is a tough game to pick. But I'm going to slide towards the Ravens to win this one. Hopefully they're able to unlock their potential, get the win over a pretty elite New England team. And as for the Patriots, they're going to have to wait another week. Unless, if Indianapolis lose, New England gets in the playoffs anyway. And last but not least, we have the 49ers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. The 49ers picked up a win over the Tennessee Titans. And the Colts, although they lost, they did give it a fight against the Seattle Seahawks in a very low-scoring game. Phillip Rivers didn't look that bad in his return. And everyone's going to have their eyes on this game because there are several teams in the AFC that needs Indianapolis to lose in order for them to get into the playoffs. And for the 49ers, they need to win and they're in. Or have Detroit lose and they're in. And for this game, given that the Colts are pretty much on a reeling ship, on the brink of an in-season collapse, I'm going to take the 49ers to win this game. But I will say, I think the Colts do have a bigger chance than you think in this one. Just watch. And now a brief update of the AFC playoff scenarios. Only the Denver Broncos have clinched a playoff spot. Meanwhile, the Bengals, Chiefs, and Dolphins were added to the elimination list. And for the NFC, only the Rams have clinched a playoff spot, with the Minnesota Vikings getting added to the elimination slot. And again, this is going to look different next week. And that concludes the Week 16 NFL predictions. Tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely, and I'll see you next time.